So in the last class we were talking about variables. Okay, so what is a variable? The other day I just told you is if you assign a name to a set of data, okay, we call it as a variable. A name to a set of data. And then okay, so how do we define the variable in bash shell is equal to name is equal to data. And then okay, so we have talked about okay, so whenever you define a variable, where it goes into the deep into the memory, and into the memory, so you'll be having a process ID. Every process ID will be allocated some memory, and in that particular memory section it is going to store this particular variable. Okay, you have a certain section where it usually uses for only for variables and functions. In that particular area it is going to store. Now okay, so if you would like to unset a variable, so how do you access a variable? Okay, so if you would like to access a variable, so echo is to print actually, okay, and dollar to your variable name, you can see the data in that particular variable. So I told you the other day, so how it actually replaces that particular variable with the data. Okay, so and if you would like to unset the data in that particular variable, so usually we use unset name. So the other day I just shown you an example of rm command. It doesn't actually remove the data, so here also it just make that particular variable available. Okay, so in the index of list of variables actually, that's all. And after that okay, so we have talked about okay, so the properties of a variable. So what are the properties of variable we talked about? It the first one is read write. So you have a variable as read write, and you can make it as read only by using read only command. So we used read only and that particular variable name. And the next one you have is local, and you can we have actually made it as environment variable by using export command. So what export command does is it puts the variable from local area to environment area. So once it puts the variable from local area to environment area, the child process getting created, the new child process which are there, which gets created, can access this particular variable. So means you're exporting to the new process IDs which are getting created as the present process ID as the parent process ID. And usually the export command, it actually the relation happens from parent to child, whereas if you would like to make it from child to parent, what you can do is you have a dot command and that particular script name. So if you use dot space script, it actually imports. Export command is going to export from parent to child, whereas if you would like to import from child to parent, so what we use dot command, or you can use source command also. Source script, both are same, absolutely same. There is no difference between them. Okay, so you can do either of the one and you can get it. Now in this today's class we are going to start about the another we are going to look into another property of a variable, so which is scalar. Another important point. Okay, so one which is scalar. What is the scalar? Let's see an example and then we'll talk about this. Okay, so I'm defining name is equal to, okay, so let's say I'm giving Rahu. Okay, so and if I are giving echo dollar name, you're getting the data. Whereas if you use name is equal to, let's say you're just putting as Ramu. So what happened? It simply overwrites. That we already know. Okay, because we talked about a property called as read write property. So any variable can be overwritten by default. The data in every variable can be overwritten by default. If you would like to make that particular variable to store multiple data, so what is happening here the data in this at this particular point of time you are storing this value, and at this particular point of time you are storing this value. If you would like to store both the values in the same variable name, it is not possible. Okay, so that particular property is called as scalar. What is scalar? At any point of time you can access only one value. So at this point of time you're accessing this value, and at this point of time you're accessing this value, but you cannot access both the values because both are two different values. Okay, so now how can you store multiple values? If you would like to store multiple values in the same variable name, how do you do that? Okay, so how do we do that is nothing but by using a concept called as arrays. By using a concept called as arrays. What is an array? Array is nothing but if you would like to store multiple values in a single variable name, then we call that particular type of variable is called as arrays. Okay, so we usually, if you have a C language background, so in C language you have this particular concept which is arrays, which you are going to store multiple values in a single variable name. So here also we are going to do the same thing, right? Now usually, okay, so what we're doing in the previous situation is when we have a total memory. So let me write like this. So assume this is the total memory. So out of this particular total memory, so what I am doing is I am having a process ID. Out of this particular process ID, I have a certain area. Okay, I have a certain area for variables. Okay, so this particular variable is area is for variables. Out of this particular variables area, so you have two things actually. So one is local and anyhow another one is environment. That's fine. Now, so previously you are storing the variables so somewhere locally over here, right? And you are marking that particular variable as okay some xyz. So the variable name. Okay, so you are just going to mark that particular variable name and okay, so you're just putting the rub. Okay, so this is what you are doing. Now what we are going to do is in the same area, so this is the area I'm talking about. Okay, so in this particular area, okay, so this particular area, so how it is going to make it is, so yeah, so the same way data, so this is a variable name, so we know that. And here what I was doing is I was just writing in the previous scenario, I was writing Ragu. Now what happens is actually we're going to cut that particular variable into pieces now. So we just make it slices. The same variable area we're going to make it into slices. Okay, so on. Okay, so we are just going to variables into slices. Now how the slices can be differentiated with a thing called as index number. So the concept called as index number. What is the index number? So the index number of this one is 0 and the next one is 1 and the next one is 2 and so on. The index number is going to be n, 0 to n. Okay, so what is this particular index number? So usually the table, it's a table actually. The table is going to be something like this. So the table is going to be something like this and it is going to be like this. So sextant. Okay, so this name of variable of 0 is going to be this data and the same variable name of 1 is going to be this data. Okay, and the same variable name of 2 is going to be this data and so on, the data goes on. Okay, so it always depends upon 0 to n index number, call it as index. So using this particular index number we are going to cut that particular variable. So now, okay, so how do you define this particular array variable? Okay, it's as simple as defining like a normal variable. So I'm going to use like student, okay, of 0. So I'm going to use square brackets and in the square brackets I'm going to define a variable, define an index number and the name. So student of 0 is equal to Ram. That's all, pretty simple. And while accessing, it's as simple as, okay, so student of 0. But this is not the right thing. So while you are accessing an array variable, so you have to use flower braces. This is the actual syntax. This is the actual syntax. Okay, so enter. So you are getting the data. So let's say if you are giving one, so one index I have not stored anything, so you are going to get empty value. You are going to get empty value. So now you see, so student of, let's say I'm giving 100. I'm just missing all the values. I'm giving Raju. So what happens now? 100, you are getting the value, but if you see what you are doing, you are missing so many values, and somewhere over here in the 100th value you are storing here the new Raju. But no, that is not the way it's going to happen. So the index number will not make by default to 0 to n. 0 to n is only to tell you that there is no limitation in the index number. Okay, so but actually whenever the variable is defining whatever the index number you have mentioned, so index number and the data, index number and the data, so the index number you have mentioned is 100. So just after 0 the 100 index is going to be stored, and while accessing your shell will sort it out and you will get it. Okay, what is this sorting out? Let me show you. Like this, student of, so student of 1 is equal to Rahul, Rahul something. So now what happened is, okay, so it's not going to push the 100 variable to down, it actually, so it is going to put number 1 as this one and it is, but while accessing, okay, so your shell is going to sort it out based on the index number and you are going to get it. So how to get all the values? So you are using, okay, so index number, whereas if you would like to get all the values, you simply use star. So while star actually, while the order, while defining the order is Ramu, Raju and Rahul, but while accessing the order changes. The Ramu, Rahul and then Raju. Okay, so you don't require that much in depth in that particular variables. Okay, the only thing you need to understand is, okay, how do you define a variable, array variable, and how it actually happens. So it happens through an index number. Okay, so to get all the values, you can use star or you can use at the rate. Both is same. You can use star or you can use at the rate. Okay, you'll get all the values. Okay, now if you would like to get how many number of values are there, you simply put hash at the starting. Okay, with star or at the rate is going to give you 3 values. It's not giving as the 100 index is given. Okay, as 100 index is defined, it's not giving the values are 100. No, it's giving only simple 3 because you stored only 3 values. Okay, so this is about arrays actually. So let me write a small script for referencing purpose. So here, I'm going to define a variable. Okay, so student is equal to all the values. So previously what you had done, student of 0 equal to student of 1 equal to. If I don't want to go that way, okay, if I would like to define all the values at once, what I'll do is Ramu, Raju, Rahul, Rama, Ravan. So something like this. Okay, so you have lot of values. So this is going to be by default student of 0, student of 1, student of 2, student of 3 and student of 4, and I'll print those things. So how do I print? I'm using single quote. So why I'm using single quotes is to print as is, no replacement. So in single quote there won't be any replacements. So if you have practiced or not, so we already discussed what is the difference between single quotes and double quotes. I'm just giving one here and one here, and I'll just use star here, star at the rate, at the rate. Yeah, so I'll just modify these things. And this is at the rate, and this is also hash at the rate. So, okay, so you're just accessing 1 and 0 and 1 index here. You're accessing all the index values here. You're just accessing number of index here. Okay, and also you can access a range of index also. If you would like to access from 2 to 4, okay, if you would like to access from 2 to 4, so the syntax is going to be a little different thing. So dollar student of star colon. So from where you want to access, let's say I want to access from 2. From 2 to 4, how many number of values are there? So 2, 3, 4. So total 3 values. So from 2, I require 3 values. Okay, so I'm just using yeah, I'm just using equal to and student of, you can use star or at the rate, anything is fine. And here I'm using 2 colon 3. So I'm going to get the values from 2 to 4. 2 to 4 means 2, 3 and 4. Total 3 values. So here if I write, okay, so to get the range of values, then the syntax is dollar student of star colon x colon y. Okay, so it's a comment, so that's the reason I'm putting hash at the start. And so x stands for starting index from where you need the values, and whereas y stands for number of values from x index. Okay, so this is a little tricky part. Okay, it's not like a simple range you mentioned 2-4 or 2-3, not like that. Okay, it's a little tricky thing. So I'm just saving it, I'm running it. Okay, so script 7.sh need to provide executable permission. So you are getting 1, 0 is Ram, 1 is Raju, star is all the values, at the rate is also all the values. Okay, so 2 to 3 means, so starting from 2 here, okay, so this is 0, 1, 2, from 2 how many values? 3 values, 1, 2, 3, you are getting these 3 values, and if you see how many number of values are there in total, you are having 5. Okay, so this is about arrays.